The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to our webinar, Body Positivity. Don't Let Your Mind Bully Your Body, presented by Sharon Brock, member of the Alumni Relations staff and a WP alumna who received her master's in counseling from William Patterson in 1996. In this webinar, you will learn about the history of the body positive movement, how women and men are affected by the media and our culture, and ultimately how you can find peace and learn to love the body you have. Before I introduce today's presenter, I'd like to go over how this webinar will work. First of all, you will be able to view the presentation on your computer screen. You will also be able to hear the presentation through your computer's audio system. Please feel free to ask questions by typing them in. We will monitor your questions and answer them at the end of the webinar. And please don't be shy. If you have a question, please ask. Any questions not answered in today's webinar will be addressed after the webinar is completed. And now, I'd like to introduce today's topic and speaker. Sharon Brock earned her master's in counseling from William Patterson in 1996. Her thesis was on disordered eating in adolescent girls, and she presented the thesis at a conference at Princeton University. She then worked as a therapist for the Renn Center of New Jersey, leading groups for clients focusing on body image, self-love, and how the media can affect both. After a health scare, Sharon returned to school and became a certified personal trainer with a certificate in nutrition. She then completed a program to become a board-certified bariatric counselor and educator through the American Association of Bariatric Counselors. Sharon believes that every body is a good body, and that once you learn to love the body you have, you will wind up with the body you love. Now I would like to introduce our presenter, Sharon Brock.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. That was Brian Kopko. He's our new alumni fellow over here in the alumni office. So thank you for that introduction. So today I will be presenting Body Positivity. Don't let your mind bully your body. As Brian said, I graduated from William Patterson in 1996 with my master's degree in counseling. Back then, there were only 2 of us in the mental health track. And even then, 20 years ago, I knew I wanted to focus on eating disorders, weight issues, and body positivity. So I continued my education, and today I'm also a certified personal trainer and a board-certified bariatric counselor and educator. And some of these things, I'm going to be showing you some of these things up here in the black where it says you go home, you look in the mirror, you cry, you think you are ugly, you think you are fat, you want to die. The worst thing is the next day it happens all over again until the day you give up. And so many people feel like that with body image issues. But what we should be feeling is like exercise is a celebration of what your body can do, not a punishment for what you ate. So back in 1996, my thesis on disordered eating was in disordered eating in adolescent girls. And not surprisingly, my research showed that 90% of the population that I studied had some form of disordered eating. That doesn't mean an eating disorder. I mean, some of them did suffer from anorexia, some had bulimia, but the vast majority of them just had some sort of issue regarding eating and body image. Maybe they were like, I'm going to eat an apple for breakfast, and they were very rigid in what they would eat. And so that showed up even back then. So I know this isn't all about eating disorders, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it just as an intro to the body positivity. And so I'm going to give you some facts about eating disorders. Eating disorders have increased threefold in the past 50 years. At least 30 million people of all ages and genders suffer from an eating disorder in the United States. That includes men and women. Every 62 minutes, at least one person dies as a direct result of an eating disorder, because eating disorders have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness. And as you probably know, anorexia is probably the most deadly. 13% of women over the age of 50 engage in disordered eating behavior, which is maybe a surprise to some of you because everyone thinks teenagers, adolescents, but it's kind of pervasive in our society today. And finally, 16% of transgender college students reported having an eating disorder, because eating disorders affect all races, all ethnic groups, male, female, everything. So we've discovered that genetics, environmental factors, personality traits all combine to create risk for an eating disorder. And there are several psychological and environmental factors that contribute to a person developing an eating disorder. These are some of them. They may use food as a means to feel in control. They may have rigid thinking. Many people who suffer from eating disorders are perfectionist. They may have poor impulse control and may also have other issues with drinking or any kind of addictions, and mostly inadequate coping skills. But there is one factor that's really prevalent in almost every person with an eating disorder, and that is their sense of self-worth is based on weight and how their body looks. So this is where it comes in. In our culture today, there's a belief that being thin is the answer to all of our problems. It can be devastating when we see idealized and photoshopped, because they're all photoshopped, images in the media, and we feel we just can't meet those expectations. As you see, got a bunch of magazines here, and it's a whole variety. I mean, obviously Weight Watchers, but you have the celebrity magazines, but all these headlines are about keep losing, lose more fat, slim, strong, and sexy, 10 pounds in 10 days, plastic surgery secrets, men's fitness, blast more of fat, get leaner and stronger, diet secrets. There's actually this magazine right in the middle. It's just called Lose It. It's all about how to lose weight. So obviously we're feeling the pressure when we see these things. And when you're at the checkout at the grocery store, this is what you're seeing. So here's some thin facts. The average model today weighs 23% less than the average American woman. 69% of Playboy models and 60% of Miss America contestants meet the weight criteria for anorexia. The photos of almost every single celebrity and model are photoshopped before they're released, every single one. They remove skin blemishes, they make the hips and thighs smaller, they make their breasts bigger, and they smooth out wrinkles. So it's not just about your body, it's about your face too. So the perfect bodies we see in magazines that are photoshops have a really bad effect on how women feel about their own bodies. We can't affect it, and men too. It affects us. So here's a few more facts. Did you know, in one study, 55% of college women thought they were overweight, when by definition of overweight, only 6% were. 94% of one sample of women wanted to be smaller than they currently were. And 96% thought that they were larger than the current societal ideal. And finally, this one will blow your mind. Maybe some of you have heard it, but half of the women in the previously mentioned study said they would rather be hit by a truck than be fat. Now, that's pretty sad. What's going on? This is 2017, and people, women and men, are still feeling less than because of their body shape or size. And it's not just the fear of fat or perceiving themselves as being fat or being afraid that others will think they're fat. People are feeling less than in all kinds of ways. And you can see right here, I need thinner legs, a flatter stomach, longer hair, whiter teeth, softer skin, a prettier face, more friends. Really what's needed is a change in perspective and higher self-esteem, because this is what the body positive movement is all about. It's encouraging people to adopt more forgiving and affirming attitudes towards their bodies with the ultimate goal of improving overall health and well-being. It targets all shapes and sizes because self-hate isn't okay at any size. So people who are involved in the body positive movement have one thing to do every day, and that is challenge yourself daily to learn how to grow and love yourself to the fullest. Every day you have to do this. So right now, I'm going to show you it's about a 4-minute video about the body positive movement that really explains in a nutshell what it's all about. So it's really fun. So let me pull it up.
Do you think there's a line where a body type becomes unhealthy?
Yeah, like if you're over 300.
What size do you think plus size would start at?
Doesn't it start at like a 14?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're overweight, then it's obviously not healthy.
What would you say would be the opposite of plus size?
Like normal.
How would you define normal?
I have no idea.
On its most basic level, body positivity is the idea that all bodies are good bodies. When you think of what TV, magazines, and movies tell us a good body is, Which celebrities come to mind?
We're asking people which celebrity they think has a really great body.
I think Jennifer Lawrence has my ideal body.
I definitely think Jennifer Aniston has a good body. She's toned. I don't know. She looks healthy. Who would you choose?
Jessica Alba. She has like a healthy body type, in my opinion.
What can we deduce about good bodies based on these women? Good bodies are thin, straight, and most often white. There's nothing wrong with having a body like this, but the body positivity movement strives to create representation for marginalized bodies. We want to see fat bodies, queer bodies, bodies of color, and everything in between up front and center in mainstream media. You might have noticed that a common descriptor for these traditionally accepted body types is healthy. But can you really tell if someone is healthy by looking at them?
I mean, if you're overweight, then it's obviously not healthy because you're lugging a lot of excess weight around. And it's proven not to be healthy. People have died from overweight.
Just because someone is fat or just because someone is thin doesn't necessarily mean that that person is healthy or unhealthy. And even if someone is clinically unhealthy, that doesn't make them any less worthy of self-love.
You can't, like, by just looking at someone, you can't tell their genetic makeup. Like, you don't know their family background, their family history, and, like, there's a lot of things that go into health rather than it just being like, are you a size 0 or a size 8?
Even though the body positive movement is for everyone, no matter what type of body you have, many plus-size body positive activists are asking the question, is it okay to call someone fat? Does the term plus-size suggest that fat bodies aren't normal?
Do you think plus size has good connotations, bad connotations, or?
I feel like often it has bad connotations. Like people are always like saying bad things about people that are plus size.
I think it's usually considered negative. What do you think is the opposite of the word plus size?
I guess negative size.
I mean, I guess just not plus sized.
Plus-size body positive activists, including yours truly, are reclaiming words like fat and plus size as descriptors and nothing more, just like someone might be tall or short. It's not an insult, it's a characteristic. Bottom line, the body positive movement wants everyone to feel worthy of self-love. Whether your body looks like that slender woman on the TV, like your favorite plus-size vlogger, or anything in between.
What type of bodies would you want to see more in the media?
Probably more plus size. I feel like there should be more. I feel like they're not appreciated enough.
I'm tall, so I like to see more tall people. It makes me feel better about myself.
I mean, just all kinds of bodies, really. I don't think we should, like, limit it to, like, any one particular type.
It makes it harder to define what a perfect body is if there are so many out there. I think everybody is beautiful, and I wish more people embraced that and understood that.
You deserve to feel beautiful, and you deserve to feel worthy. It's that simple.
So let me get back to the presentation. So that's what the body positivity movement is all about. Everybody deserves to be loved. And so now we're going to discuss how the body positive movement began. Well, there's always been societal pressure to have the ideal body image. Women and men have always been under the pressure to look a certain way. While skinny female models are today's society's ideal, actually skinny with big breasts and a big butt, which is even more impossible to achieve for most women.
You may have noticed by now that I'm really fat.
Hold on a second,
and that's
guys.
okay. You wouldn't be the first.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, so anyway, today's male ideal includes nearly impossible to achieve muscles and masculinity, but it seems as if it's more acceptable to be critical of women's bodies, maybe because women have dealt with years of objectification. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Back in the olden days, the 1800s, the plump, sensual women were the ideal, and Peter Paul Rubens loved to paint depictions of these women. This was the perfect ideal. In fact, up until the 20th century, curvy, voluptuous women were considered ideally beautiful in the US and in Europe. The term Rubenesque was used to describe a woman of ideal beauty, which was certainly more on the plump side than what we see today. In the early 1900s, the Gibson Girl was the standard of beauty. She had a thin waist, large breasts, rounded shoulders. Here's a Gibson Girl. But the way they minimized their waist was using corsets, which you can see here. They were fragile women. They were voluptuous, not lewd. They were progressive, but not too political. They were like, female independence, but they didn't stray too far from feminine ideals. But then in the 1920s, here came the flappers. They were trendy, bob haircuts, very thin. They showed their disdain for what was considered polite and acceptable, and they smoked, they drank, they drove cars, they listened to jazz, and they believed in casual sex. So this was an era where women were starting to vote, they could drive cars, choose who they married, and even hold jobs that were previously only for men. But it all changed again in the 1950s and early 60s when the pinup girl came into the cultural ideal. Nobody epitomized this more than Marilyn Monroe. Pinup girl photos were retouched, actually. They didn't have Photoshop back then, but they did retouch them to make the model look more beautiful. But then everything changed again. First of all, gaining weight was the only way a woman would gain a man back in the 50s and 60s. It wasn't the ideal to be skinny. But suddenly in the 60s came the advent of people like models like Twiggy, Audrey Hepburn. Curves were not important. It was important to be very thin and very fashionable. And so it was at this time when the 60s, during the 1960s, when second wave feminism came about and the fat acceptance began, which also paved the way for body positivity movement. The fat acceptance movement focused on issues of body politics and discrimination against fat bodies. But while this movement was beginning, the media was still showing us all different images of what ideal beauty was. For those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s, it was all about being toned, tan, and terrific, and hair. You had to have lots and lots of hair. Farrah Fawcett was the feminine ideal then, thin and beautiful and athletic and lots of hair. Her poster was and still is the best-selling poster of all time. But then as the 90s came about, grunge took center stage and a new trend emerged known as heroin chic. If Twiggy wasn't waif-like enough, the 90s brought in a wave of models spearheaded by Kate Moss, who exemplified the wispy, slender, drugged-out look of heroin chic. This was where the unhealthy obsession with thinness began, and Moss actually coined the phrase, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." During the 1990s, men also continued to be under pressure to have the bodies of strong, virile, muscular providers. In addition to being financially successful, men were expected to be well-groomed, in good shape, and emotionally skilled in relationships. So just as the pressure to be thin and perfect and financially successful was reaching a boiling point, that's where most historians pinpoint the beginning of the body positivity movement. 1996 is the year that Connie Sobczak and Elizabeth Scott, and there they are today, created the Body Positive Movement campaign, hoping that by accepting unique and realistic body images, it would lead to a more balanced, self-loving life. The campaign focused on overweight social stigmas, but also included size discrimination based on extremes in physical size, such as being very tall, being very short, being very fat, or being very thin. And this was great. People of all sizes, shapes, colors could now feel positively about their bodies, right? No, not really. Some people say it took 10 years for a simple photo of a plus size, and I say plus size because when you see the photo, model, to really get the ball rolling. In September of 2009, model Lizzie Miller was photographed in Glamour magazine. In the photo, she has stretch marks and a little belly. So now this is the photo that shocked the world. This is Lizzie Miller relaxing between breaks of her in her modeling. And she's a plus size model, 2009. And this picture was a little picture buried in the back of Glamour magazine. But they got more mail on this than anything. This, for some reason, really set the world on fire. Many people pinpoint the real start of the body positivity movement back to 2009 with Lizzie. And then more models started coming forward. Crystal Renn had starved herself for years. She was a size 4 model and finally came out, told her side, this is her book, told her side of the story of how she starved herself just to look good. No longer starving, she became a popular plus-size model, and ironically, now she's lost weight again and people are picking on her. But no matter what her size, I think we can agree that she's beautiful. Ashley Graham made the cover of Sports Illustrated. She was the first plus-size model to do so, making history. And Tess Holliday is literally the first woman of her size, a size 22, to land a major modeling contract. So fat activism and size acceptance were born out of the feminist movement. But one thing I have noticed is, it always seems to be one thing or the other. Are we promoting thinness or accepting curves? There's really never been a moment in time that felt inclusive of all bodies. And that includes size, shape, color, ability, and gender. All bodies, which is why I wanted to show you this. Curvy girls are just as beautiful as skinny girls. But you know what that means? Skinny girls are just as beautiful as curvy girls. Don't bash one to lift the other up, then act like that's body positive. Because body positive is about every body is a beautiful body. So in 2012, the body positive movement really started to take off. As I pointed out, the models like Tess Holliday and Ashley Graham, they promoted the body positivity movement, got a great social media following. And in fact, social media is one of the main things that has propelled the movement into gaining momentum. Many people agree that the many platforms, especially Twitter and Instagram, are responsible for the rapid growth of body positivity movement, which really, really started in probably, like we said, 2009, but in 2012, totally took off. So the social media environment really has responded loudly to impossible beauty standards. There's a lot of body positive campaigns out there. Hashtags like Lane Bryant's hashtag I'm no angel. There's a hashtag lose hate, not weight, which encourages people to be comfortable in their own skin. Hashtag less is more was part of a petition created by Erin Treelor, who's an eating disorder survivor. The National Organization for Women has officially designated October 14th as Love Your Body Day. And at bodypositivity.com, readers are encouraged to use this hashtag you don't know my story. This serves as a reminder to never judge another person. Never assume you know all there is to know. So the ultimate goal of the body positive movement, to combat unrealistic ideals about beauty and health, as well as to promote self-acceptance. Because there's really no wrong way to have a body. So in the simplest sense, the body movement states, all bodies are good bodies exactly as they are, regardless of body size, shape, or color, regardless of hair or a lack of hair, regardless of stretch marks, scars, acne, extra limbs, or limbs removed. So right now, I just want to show you a few pictures of some beautiful women. These are some beautiful bodies. And this is their quotes. This woman is beautiful. I don't find my beauty in the opinion of others. I'm beautiful because I know it. This woman, I have a big tummy, small boobs, fat arms, fat legs. According to many, I shouldn't feel comfortable, let alone sexy, but I couldn't care less about the beauty standards. And finally, this woman, who's a burn survivor. She's a Bosnian war refugee, and she's strong, brave, confident, and beautiful. So as we're saying, the body positivity, yes, it's about size, but it's also about other things, scars, color, everything. So body positive therapist Debbie Burgard has this to say. Body positivity explores taking up occupancy inside your own skin rather than living above the chin until you're thin, which how many people are out there and taking pictures, nothing, no body shots, you know, they're not going to go skiing. They're not going to do anything until they're thin. They're going to live above the chin until they're thin. But that's not what this is about. Dr. Burgard is actually a therapist and a certified fitness instructor. So she was teaching a dance class for women over 200 pounds. At the same time, she was running an inpatient program for women with eating disorders. So So what she realized was she was working with the healthiest fat women in her dance class and the sickest thin women in the hospital. So it was very clear. Health is not automatically linked to thinness. You have to remember, we don't know who is healthy and who is not just by looking at their body shape. So what does this all mean? A few little things. First of all, body shaming doesn't make people healthier. Fat shaming doesn't make people lose weight. And loving yourself will never be unhealthy. That's what body positivity is promoting. Body positivity is not just a big girl movement, it's literally meant for everybody. It's accepting and appreciating your body in the moment and all stages of your life, whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 60 years old. Your worth is not measured by the size of your weight. So, we can say all this, but a recent study found that only 1 in 4 people, men and women, felt very or extremely satisfied with their appearance. This is not something we should be okay with. So while having plus-size models and seeing celebrities with more diverse body types is something we need to see, it's still body-focused and still focused on how your body looks. So what can we do to fix this? In a perfect world, we'd stop talking about bodies. We'd stop looking at other people's bodies, but that's not realistic. But we can change how we talk about bodies. First of all, focus on what your body can do. Instead of trying to lose weight, focus on something your body does. Can you move more? Can you run faster? Can you lift heavier weights? It's very empowering to realize your body can do so many things that has nothing to do with how it looks. Change how you talk about other people. Care about their jobs, their families, their intelligence, not just their body. This is especially true of women because I think women do this to women a lot. Rather than forgetting about fitness, forget about fatness. You're not a before and after. Forget about fat and focus on being fit. Go to the gym. Don't live above your chin until you're thin. Just enjoy your life. Believe in body autonomy. Now, this is something that some people may not agree with, but we should be allowed to do what we want with our bodies, as long as it doesn't affect anyone else. So losing weight doesn't mean you don't love your body. It means that for whatever reason, you want to maybe lose a little weight. So you don't point to the person who wants to lose weight and say they don't love their body. They do love their body. Maybe they just want to lose a little bit of weight. Define what your healthy weight is, not from a scale or a BMI chart, but the weight your body is when you're living a happy life, the weight at which your unique body seems to settle in at. I love this because this scale will only tell you the numerical value of your gravitational pull. It will not tell you how beautiful you are, how much your friends and family love you, or how amazing you are. And that's what everyone should remember. Few more points. Work with your body. Listen to it, make it a partner. Treat it like you would treat your best friend. Strengthen your emotional immune system. This is to withstand society's messages about femaleness and fatness and failure. And maybe your friends and family are giving you these messages too, and what you should look like. If you strengthen your emotional immune system, you'll be okay, and you'll be able to push away those nasty messages and love your body and love yourself. Remember, we are not perfect beings. We are all just trying to figure out a way to love ourselves in a world that constantly teaches you to hate yourself. Think about this. If everybody loved how their body looked and loved how their hair looked and loved how their makeup looked, how many businesses would go out of business? This is the point. You have to forget about the media and forget about that all and just live your life and be happy. See, you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. So stop acting like this is a surprise and start being kinder to yourself. Which brings us to my last 2 points. We are all humans. We all have bad body image days. Don't beat yourself up over it. It only is going to make you feel worse. Go to the next day and your body image will be better. And finally, be kind to yourself. Don't look in the mirror and say, I look so ugly. Oh my God, I hate that. That's the worst thing to do. You would not do that to your best friend or to your daughter or to your son or anybody. Don't do it to yourself. So while you're being kind to yourself, be kind to others too. Just a few more facts I'm going to tell you. Body positivity is living joyfully in your body today, just the way it is today. We all like to make changes. Maybe you want to lose a few pounds or gain a few, change the color of your hair, get a tattoo. It's okay. But don't put off until tomorrow what you can do today with your amazing body, just the way it is today. Body positivity is for everyone. Cannot stress that enough. Male, female, those who identify outside the gender binary, black, white, tall, short, large, skinny, fat, everyone. And accepting your body and loving your body doesn't mean that you're vain. Body positivity isn't reserved for women or men under a certain size or over a certain size, or people who eat or exercise a certain way, or for hourglass-shaped people, or people with light skin, or people who fit neatly into heater or not cis-normative boxes, or people who walk without a cane, or people who walk at all. Body positivity is for everybody. And body shaming is off the table. Don't tell someone they're too fat or too muscly or too skinny. Don't tell that thin person, quote, eat a sandwich, or assume that your large coworker is lazy or stupid. Because body positive means all bodies are equally valuable. And remember this. This is one of my favorite things. I don't know if you think it's as funny as I do, but you are not fat, you have fat. You also have fingernails, but you are not fingernails. That's one of my favorite things. So you're not fat. Everyone has fat. You're not fat. So I just want to say a little story, a personal note here. I never liked my thighs. I never did. They didn't make me happy. They were too fat, too lumpy, too everything, and I couldn't get past it. So I found this book called Real Gorgeous by Kaz Cook. Right now it's out of print, but you can actually still buy a copy on Amazon. It's really cute. It's really good. There was a passage in the book about body acceptance, and a woman wrote how she hated her thighs. She hated how they looked. But as she walked on the beach with her strong legs helping her stride across the sand, feeling the ocean water splash her legs, she realized something. Her legs were awesome. They were strong, they were flexible, and they worked really, really well. She had a new appreciation for her thighs when she realized it wasn't about how they looked, but how awesome they were, because they worked really, really great. So I started looking at my thighs a little differently, but I would be lying if I said I immediately changed how I felt about them. But I did start wearing shorts again and wearing my bikini on the beach. Might not have happened overnight, but as I started to stop looking at my body and started listening to my body, this is me, yay, appreciating what it did for me, how strong it was, how capable it was, I started to love my body, flaws and all. And just because I mentioned Kaz Cook, I want to end with some words of advice from her, which are pretty cool. There are millions of gorgeous body shapes. Yours is one of them. Dieting doesn't work. Your thighs are pretty cute. Exercise should be fun and not duty. Cheap cosmetics can be as good as expensive ones. Advertising lies. Plastic surgery sucks. Modeling can be miserable. You can recover from an eating disorder. You can read magazines and watch television critically, and you can fight the body police. And you know what? You can be friends with your body. So start today with a little appreciation and let the friendship grow. And the next time you see a magazine with their headline saying, how to get a bikini body, just remember this, because now I'm going to tell you how to get a bikini body. Ready? This is how you get a bikini body. Put a bikini on your body, and you have a bikini body. So I just want to say thank you if anyone has any questions, but I also want to promote that Love Your Body Day, which is sponsored by the Women's Center at William Patterson, is next Wednesday, September 27th, 11 to 2. There's going to be a body positivity talk. There's a photo booth. There's Zumba, line dancing with the DJ, healthy food. There's a Bollywood dance, chair massages, and skincare products, and lots more. For any students, they can get into a raffle to win prizes. And there's going to be some healthy food and just a lot of fun stuff. So if anybody wants to come, you are invited. It is next week, and the Renn location is going to be in University Commons 168A and B. So no questions. I want to thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.